Greetings everyone, Archimedes here, and welcome back to another brick-filled LEGO video. And today, we're going to be showing off another strange new connection in our Making Connections series, this one involving beams and bricks. So let's take a look, shall we? Now, as you might recall, in the last episode, we took a look at ways to stick pins into the backside of bricks to pin bricks together in opposite-facing angles, so that you can have studs facing in two directions, like this. Now, we're going to use axles and if you remember in the last video, beneath the brick 2, we took a look at ways to use pins to attach LEGO bricks together to make studs appear on both sides of a brick. As you can see, the connection like this. Now, this time, we're going to be taking beams and other pin holders, and we're going to be using them to reverse that. Instead of having the studs face out on both sides, we're going to have the tubes face out on both sides. Sound interesting or important? Let's get started. This connection is fairly simple. All you have to do is take a beam, or anything with holes in it, really, and attach it on top of the studs on a LEGO brick, as you can see here. Now, this is a connection in and of itself. You could probably connect your beams to bricks, and that's interesting in and of itself. What makes this technique especially special, though, is that you can attach a beam, or a brick, rather, on the opposite side of those beams, like this. So now, we have a brick with tube lock system on the bottom, and a tube lock system on the top. And this whole conversion has been done in less than the space of 3 bricks height. The same connection applies to pretty much every other piece in your LEGO collection, including cyclopean eye members, axle pin holders, really anything you can think of. Because of these holes inside the beams, you're able to attach them to these studs. This is a particularly great technique if you want to add some interesting or different styled greebling in a model and need to use a piece at a completely different angle. After all, if you look at the bottom of a brick, it's actually kind of an interesting shape, like a jet intake, perhaps. And using this technique, you're able to flip the brick from a normal connection seamlessly. Well, maybe seamlessly is a bit of an exaggeration. As you can see, between the two bricks, there is a definite bump in, as you can see. It's not completely flush with the bricks, just because of the design of beams. So, if you're going to be using a connection like this, you're going to either want to hide it or plan for this strange shape in beam. The other thing to consider is, with the exception of the 2-length beam, pretty much all beams are odd lengths, whereas most bricks are even lengths. So if you want to use them with a normal, even-numbered LEGO system, the beam will either be sticking over your bricks or not going all the way to the edge. Of course, there are ways to fix this. For example, you could attach one to the end, but it requires a few more complications. There's one other thing to note about using this technique. As you might remember from some of the earlier videos, a beam is the length and width of a brick, but not the depth, as you recall. Now, this might not seem like a very important detail, but if you look at this in a little micro model, you might see where the problem lies. If you use this reverse beam connection somewhere in a model, it won't necessarily fit in with the other LEGO geometry too easily. As you can see, this brick is slightly lower than these bricks, since the beam is only 5/6 as long or tall as a normal LEGO brick. There are several ways around this, but they're really not quite the topic for this particular video. Click on the link in the description if you want a more detailed tutorial. The other way to figure this out is to simply mess with the proportions themselves. If you play around with the right lengths and widths of bricks, using plates and beams and half beams, you'll eventually find the correct ratio for these bricks to line up properly with the top. But enough of the naysaying. There's one last connection that you might not think about, or you might, but that is always a very important one, at least in my models. And that is that you can use half beams to do this reverse brick connection, just like beams. As you can see here, you can slide two bricks together pretty much flush with one another, barely a distance in between the studs, and fit them in reverse. I really like the way this looks. I mean, I like the way it looks, especially with curves. But if you're going to be using this in a model, I recommend using half beams. So it really smoothens out the transition, and it's very unnoticeable. For today, we talked about beams and how to use them to reverse your Lego brick connections in one simple step. It's really quite an excellent connection, and I think it's very, very useful, especially in greebling purposes. You might even want to consider just simply using a beam as a greeble itself. So you can see this has a kind of interesting look to it, with that kind of inset tube. But I digress. You decide where this would look best in your model. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you liked this video. I hope that it was interesting or informative, or at least that it entertained you for a little while. If you did in fact like this video, please comment, rate, or subscribe. If you didn't like this video, still, please comment and rate, and if you really want, still, please subscribe too. I want to hear what you have to say would make this video, my channel, different and better. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you all farewell. My name is Arcimedes36, and I'll see you next time.